Hey guys, it's Dr. Jyoti Patel. Welcome to my third day of the Gut Reset program. Thank you so much if you've been joining me throughout these 3 days to learn about how you can reset your gut. My mission is to empower you with knowledge so that you can take back control of your health. And so if you're watching and you don't know who I am a board certified in internal medicine, in pediatrics, in integrative medicine, and also certified in functional medicine. And it's my mission to teach the better part of health so that people can take back control of their own health. I know a lot of times you have questions that maybe your doctor doesn't have time for. So feel free to use the comment box to ask questions today. I love answering questions. But just know that these talks are for educational purposes only. If you have any serious health problems, I do recommend that you work one-on-one with your doctor. And feel free to take any of this information back to them and have that open conversation about your health. So day 1, we talked about removal. Day 2, removal and replacing agents that can affect the gut. Day 2, we talked about reinoculation and repair of the gut lining. And today I want to talk about restoring and rebalancing. So if you're watching today, feel free to get comfortable in your chair. I definitely want this to be an interactive process. I'm going to walk with you on some experientials. We're going to do some vagal activation today. And so when I talk about restoring and rebalancing, I'm talking about rebalancing the mind-body connection. And so you may have heard this term, mind-body connection. I'm going to take you down a more scientific path to explain how the mind and the body are connected. Okay. So there is a nervous system that connects our minds to our bodies. And this nervous system is humming just below the surface without our conscious control. And this nervous system is called the autonomic nervous system. You may have heard of this term, fight or flight, rest and digest. These are terms that we use to describe the functions of this nervous system. So there's a nerve called the vagus nerve. It is one of the most primitive nerves in our body. It's cranial nerve number 10. It originates in the brainstem, right? And it travels through our vocal cords, our airway, through our lungs and our heart, our diaphragm, our digestive tract, and all 4 limbs. This nerve, called the vagus nerve, in Latin it means wandering. And its main function is to control the ongoings of our body, whether it's our pupils get dilated when we're scared, or our mouth gets dry, or our neck tightens up, or our heart starts pounding, or our breath becomes shallow, or our stomach becomes queasy, or our palms become sweaty, or our muscles become tense. And if you know that sensation, that feeling of fight or flight, that's all coordinated by this autonomic nervous system. The opposite side of fight or flight, the opposite side of the sympathetic gas pedal that we push on when we're stressed and when we're nervous, is the rest, digest, and repair, also known as the parasympathetic nervous system. So you can either be stuck in fight or flight, which a lot of us are all day long, right? So we're always on the go, we're always stressed, we're always trying to get things done, we don't have enough time in the day, and if we're not doing something, we're thinking about doing something, and if something is already passed, we ruminate about that, and that keeps our body stuck in the sympathetic gas pedal fight or flight realm. Unfortunately, when we get stuck in fight or flight, what we sacrifice is the parasympathetic, the rest, repair, and digest part of our brain, okay? So that communication, that nervous system becomes weaker. And the part that we're exercising every day, the fight or flight, becomes stronger. And that creates an imbalance. And when there's an imbalance in the system, then downstream you start having chronic diseases. So if you can imagine somebody who's chronically stressed, how can it in fact cause anxiety, panic attacks, insomnia, headaches, depression. It can lead to, substance abuse and addictions. Somebody who may have chronic stress might start to suffer from hypertension and palpitations and heart disease, or may have digestive issues such as acid reflux or IBS, constipation or diarrhea. People might have some other issues such as chronic joint pain, achiness, fatigue, and they may be also susceptible to chronic infections, right? It might even be the stress that activates autoimmunity. So when we get stuck in fight or flight, when we are chronically activating the gas pedal, the sympathetic realm, and we're not activating the parasympathetic, which is the rest, repair, and digest part of our nervous system, we become sick. So part of this stage, this last step that I want to teach you about restoring the body, and not just the gut, but all the functions of the body, is to become the master of your autonomic nervous system. Because it is the master switch that either puts us into fight or flight or puts us into rest, digest, and repair. Now, both sides are important equally, but we find ourselves stuck in one side a lot. So finding ourselves practicing the other side can help us create balance. All right, so the first thing that I want to talk about is sleep. The most restorative part of our day is when we go to bed. And if it wasn't important, we would have evolved out of it since the time of the dinosaurs, but we still need our sleep. So it's important, okay? And when we sacrifice sleep for those late night TV binges or late night activities, online activities, social media, whatever we spend so much time doing at night, we're sacrificing this part of the nervous system that's super critical in repairing, restoring, and digesting. So what do I recommend? Here's your take home for sleep. Sleep is not a place you go to. Being less awake is being asleep. Taking your foot off the gas pedal and putting your foot on the brake is being asleep. So if you're hyper-vigilant, hyper-aroused, chronically thinking, chronically processing, can't let go, that's insomnia, okay? And when we take sedatives or sleep aids, we're not necessarily turning on the parasympathetic nervous system. We're just shutting our eyes. Our mind is still moving. So a lot of times people will say, I need to take a sleeping pill because I can't sleep. Well, in fact, they're probably not sleeping anyway. Okay, so what we really want to work on is the root cause of why we're not sleeping, which is that we're stuck in fight or flight. What should you do before sleep? You should stop eating 3 hours before sleep and stop drinking anything, especially anything that's going to keep you awake, like alcohol, 3 hours before bed. You can, an hour before bed, find a more restorative practice, turning off your technology, dimming your lights, making the room cooler, finding things that are going to slow you down and allow you to let go. You might want to do a brain dump, like journal your thoughts for the day. You might want to do something relaxing, like stretching, breathing. You may want to take a warm bath, listen to some music, anything that helps you detach from more information. Processing at the end of the day with lots of work, online work, watching television, binging on shows. Even if you think that they're relaxing for you, your brain is still processing that new information. And so it's not going to let go until it's figured out the plot of the show that you're watching. Okay, so at least an hour before bed, turn everything off. Try not to keep your technology at your bedside. The electromagnetic frequencies that are emitted from electronics, such as your phone, can actually disturb sleep. So if you can remove as much EMF from the room that you're sleeping in, the better it is. Turning down the lights, turning off anything that's a distraction. Even things like alarm clocks can be distracting for people, so making sure they're turned away from you if you have to have one. Not having your phone under your pillow or in your bed, because again, that's going to disrupt your sleep. Put it in airplane mode if you have to put it next to your bedside. Turning off your Wi-Fi at night if you're able to do that. Again, breath work is one of my favorite things to teach. So if you're having trouble sleeping, or you're having trouble letting go, or you find yourself during the day stuck in fight or flight, and how do you know you're stuck in fight or flight? You'll know because your neck is tense, because your heart's racing, because your mind can't shut off, because you find yourself nervous or thinking about the next thing you need to do. That's symptoms of being stuck in fight or flight. And if sitting still makes you agitated, makes you irritable, makes you want to get up and move, that's a sign of withdrawal from adrenaline. The most addictive drug that we have out there is adrenaline. We feel like we constantly need to be stimulated. We need to check our notifications. We need to turn on our phone. We need to see who's on, who isn't, what did they say, did anyone respond? That is being stuck in fight or flight. So sitting in silence and just taking a minute to take a few deep breaths can help you activate the parasympathetic nervous system, the nervous system that's going to help you repair, restore, and digest. Okay? So I like to teach you this morning or afternoon, wherever you are, breath techniques. One of the most famous ones that Dr. Andrew Weil teaches is 4-7-8. You can do this at night if you're having trouble sleeping, or during the day if you find yourself really stressed. You're going to take in a deep breath for a count of 4. You're going to hold your breath for a count of 7. And then you're going to open your mouth and exhale out for a count of 8. And let's do that one more time. Take a deep breath in. Open your mouth, exhale out. So 4 in, hold, 7, exhale out for 8. You can place your hands on your chest and your belly, and you can breathe in, feeling the expansion of the body with the breath. You can hold it there for a second, and then you can exhale out, letting it go. So if you have trouble sleeping at night, or if you find yourself stressed during the day, feel free to do some deep breathing exercises to reconnect to the autonomic nervous system. This is called vagal activation. The vagus nerve can be stimulated through breath work, which will then take you out of the sympathetic and put you in the parasympathetic. You can also use humming. You can also use a type of breath technique that uses the vocal cords. So you can breathe with your voice, like by activating the vocal cords. You're also doing vagal activation. You can gargle. Gargling activates the vagus nerve. So there's many different techniques for vagal activation. Feel free to use those at night before you go to bed. Vocalization, singing, gargling, breathing to help take you out of the sympathetic and put you into the parasympathetic. And this is all physiologic changes in your body. It's all chemical messages that you are sending through vagal activation to turn off the fight or flight. And remember that it's all tethered to chronic disease. So if you have trouble sleeping, you'll find that it increases your chances for hypertension, heart disease, obesity, sugar dysregulation. So many things are tethered to poor sleep. And the reason for that is because of the chronic sympathetic activation from poor sleep. If you do have trouble sleeping, make sure you get checked out for sleep apnea, because again, there are other medical conditions that can be causing you to have problems with sleep. So make sure you talk to your doctor if you are having trouble with snoring, daytime sleepiness, or you suspect that you have sleep apnea. Okay, so stress reduction during the day. You can also move. Movement can actually release endorphins and decrease stress in the body. So if you're not exercising on a regular basis, put that in your 2021 list of things to do. And remember that you might want to be here and you're here today. Just take tiny steps towards getting closer and closer to that perfect self. You might decide by wearing a Fitbit or a smartwatch to keep track of your steps. You might decide to take a walk outside, maybe just checking the mail once a day, maybe a task for you. You might decide to do some stretches or some yoga at home. Yoga is a great way to tie in the movement with the breath and increase that vagal activation. You can do Tai Chi. You can spend time in nature. Anything that helps you with movement can also release endorphins that can help you with digestion and motility. So it's not just good for the mind-body connection, but movement also helps with digestion. So sleep, stress reduction, movement, social connection. So restoring relationships is also a great thing to do to help improve gut health. A lot of times the body keeps score. The body keeps memory of things that have happened in the past, traumas that you may have experienced, relationships that didn't work out, maybe some discourse that you have with somebody currently that is harboring some resentment. And that can also relate to gastrointestinal issues. So being able to mend those social relationships, being able to let go of resentment and anger can actually be healing for the gut. And there's lots of meditations out there, but one of my favorite ones is the loving kindness meditation called metta meditation. And these can be found online, but it starts by placing your hands on your heart and taking a nice deep breath and connecting to your own body and giving yourself permission to relax into gratitude. So, and also sending yourself positive messages. May I be well. May I be safe. May I be happy and healthy. And then finding in your mind's eye people that you love and send this message to them. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you be safe. May you be free of pain. And if you have had problems with resentment or anger towards other people, to again try to send the same message to them. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you be safe and free of suffering. And if you do that on a daily basis, it's not an exercise of forgiveness for others, but it is a release of tension in the body. And that staying on that gas pedal is also part of holding resentment. So when we find ourselves holding anger and resentment towards others for what they may have done to us, what we thought they did to us, can also harbor stress in the system, which can put us into fight or flight, which can then affect our gastrointestinal system, but also all other systems. So working on gratitude, working on releasing anger, working on social connections, working on time in nature, all these things can be very healing for the gut, because the underlying physiology behind that is it activates the parasympathetic nervous system. So let's see here. We talked about that. Now, also we talked about food. Food can be very healing, but a lot of times we eat food in a very rushed way. So one of the exercises I teach a lot of patients is mindful eating. Taking our time when we're eating slowly, paying attention to our food, putting it in our plate, watching it, seeing the colors, seeing the shapes, smelling it, maybe even chewing it and hearing it, tasting it, using all our senses to really connect to our food. One, it tells the brain that something's coming into the system. It gives the brain a chance to communicate with the stomach to produce acid and the pancreas to secrete enzymes and for the liver to secrete bile. So it gives our body time to do the second part, which is replacing all the necessary steps for digestion. But second, it also connects us to our food. So we're not sitting in front of the television, mindlessly eating. We're not distracted by our phone. We're actually paying attention to the task at hand, which is eating. And when we do that, we activate the parasympathetic nervous system, which allows us to then again receive that food in a more meaningful way. Okay. And it could be something unhealthy, but if you're eating it in a mindful way, the body's receiving it in a positive way. All right, so mindful eating is super important. There are some other techniques if you find yourself stuck in fight or flight that I teach patients, which are mindful techniques such as a body scan. If you're sitting in your car or you find yourself in a stressful meeting and if you have a difficult time letting go of tension, then you can start with your feet and notice how your feet feel right now in the chair that you're sitting in. Maybe even close your eyes so that you can tune into your feet. Maybe there are sensations, maybe they feel cold, maybe they feel warm, maybe they don't feel like anything. And take a deep breath and let go of your attention towards your feet and bring your attention to your calves and your ankles. And notice your calves and your ankles. And if you're finding yourself restless, know that that's completely fine and normal. And if your attention has moved to thoughts or attention has moved to emotions, that's perfectly fine. Take a nice deep breath, letting go of your calves, moving up to your thighs. Noticing the contact that your thighs may be making with the chair. Taking a nice deep breath and letting go of the thighs and bringing your attention to your hips and maybe your lower back. And taking another deep breath, relaxing the back and the hips, bringing your attention to your belly. Noticing the movement of the belly with your breath. And now moving your attention up to your chest, and again noticing the breath as it moves in and out through the chest. And maybe you notice that you're breathing shallow, maybe you notice you're breathing deeper. Just becoming aware of where the breath lands in your body. And maybe bringing your attention to your shoulders, and if you're holding tension in your neck or your shoulders, giving yourself permission to notice that. Noticing your arms and your forearms and your hands, breathing and relaxing into that space. And bringing your attention to your neck and your throat, and maybe your jaw and the muscles in your face, and your forehead and your eyelids, and the top of your head, the back of your head. And as you take another deep breath, you notice your body as a whole, from the top of your head to the bottom of your feet as you breathe in and out. And then gently returning to the room and noticing how your body feels. A lot of times when we are able to bring attention to different body parts and use our breath to activate and stimulate the vagus nerve, we can actually activate the parasympathetic nervous system, flipping that master switch from fight or flight to rest, digest, and repair. So for me, that's the most important part of gut restoration. We can remove agents that could be irritating our gut. We could do elimination diets. We can replace lots of supplements and nutrients. We could try to do all these kinds of things. But if we don't work on the underlying root cause of what's causing the system to fail, which is usually the nervous system, then all the other layers on top may not work as efficiently. So working on the parasympathetic nervous system and creating balance in our autonomic nervous system is the most important part of reversing chronic disease, or even preventing chronic disease. There's lots of studies to show that, longevity studies to show that regular practice in meditation and breath work can actually help longevity, right? So we were talking about telomere length, we're talking about people from blue zones. A lot of these techniques that I'm talking about today, whether it's vagal activation through breath work, body scans, 5 senses, meditation, movement such as yoga and tai chi, sleep hygiene, any type of movement, all of these things are tethered to longevity. So why is that? Because what we know about the sympathetic nervous system is that when we're in chronic fight or flight, we are spinning our wheels, we are burning rubber, we are running through, creating so much exhaust, which is free radicals in the body, that we're actually damaging tissue faster than we're repairing them. And that causes us to age more rapidly, and it causes us to have more chronic disease. So if you've been with me for the last 3 days and you've learned a little bit about restoring the body, this is the most important part. And my quest for you is to find the time in your day, maybe starting out with just 5 deep breaths when you first wake up in the morning. That's all you are able to do. And then layering on top of that, maybe stay in bed for maybe 5 more minutes as you do a body scan, starting with the bottom of your feet and work your way all the way to the top of your head. Maybe then, after you've done 5 deep breaths and maybe a quick body scan in bed, you decide to take a walk around the neighborhood. So adding on little tiny habits that constantly flip you back and forth from sympathetic to parasympathetic is creating balance. You can't be a meditating monk for 14 hours a day. That's not productive. But what I want to teach you is how you can see when you're in fight or flight, and then in 2 minutes or maybe 5 breaths, be able to jump out of it and into the parasympathetic realm. So if you were in a very stressful meeting or you had a very stressful phone call with a family member, how you can recognize when you're in fight or flight, how you can then use some of the techniques that I've taught you today to then deactivate the sympathetic nervous system, activate the parasympathetic, get into that rest, repair, and digest mode until you're stressed again. And maybe you're in traffic this time and you have to get somewhere in a hurry and you find yourself in fight or flight and you're stopped at a red light and you recognize that you're in fight or flight, and then you take that moment to do 5 deep breaths and deactivate the sympathetic nervous system, activate the parasympathetic nervous system. Or let's say you're at the grocery store and you're standing in line and you're wearing your mask and you're super tense about the amount of people in the store and it's causing you to get into fight or flight, and you're standing there with your shopping cart. I would invite you to then take that moment to really use your five senses. What you see, what you smell, what you hear, what you touch, and connect to that body and your breath. And in that moment, what you're doing is magical. You're deactivating the sympathetic network and you're activating the parasympathetic. You're going from fight or flight to rest, digest, and repair. And so becoming the master regulator of your autonomic nervous system takes sometimes practice. But just like if I was your swim coach, I wouldn't just tell you how to swim. You would have to actually get in the swimming pool and practice every day. So in that same way, I invite you to practice parasympathetic activation, vagal activation in your day. Become aware of when you're finding yourself tense in your neck or in your jaw, or where you feel it in your body. Maybe it's your chest or your belly. Recognize when those symptoms start to erupt, and then give yourself something that works for you. Maybe it's the hand on the chest and the belly and doing some breath work. Maybe it's the 4-7-8. Another technique could be thinking of a door frame as you breathe. Breathe in along the side, hold as you go across, exhale as you go down, and then hold as you go across. So breathe in, hold, breathe out, hold. That's a nice vagal activation, very simple to do. You can use your hands. You can breathe in as you slide your finger up, and exhale as you slide your finger down. Breathe in as you slide your finger up, and exhale as you slide your finger down. You can teach these techniques to children. So if you have young children, whether they're grandchildren or children of your own, and you know that they have trouble with stress coping, these are very easy tools that children can use to help deactivate the sympathetic drive. And they can learn this early on. And if they learn these techniques early on, they will become the Zen masters of their autonomic nervous system, so that when they're adults and they're dealing with stressors that are much bigger than when they're children, they can then avoid chronic disease. All right, so we're coming up on that 12:30 mark. If anybody has any questions about restoring and rebalancing the mind-body connection, or if you have any questions from day 1 or day 2, please feel free to put them in the comments. I am here to help. And if you want to keep the momentum going, or you need more accountability with some of the things that you want to do this year with your health, feel free to join my 30-day reset. It starts on January 11th. It's 30 days of coaching online. You'll see me on a live call every Thursday at noon with some of my other members here, a functional nutritionist and a personal trainer, where we'll talk about, again, how to get back on track with your health in 2021. So thank you so much for joining me. If you're here live, please let me know that you're here, #live. And if you're watching the replay, of course, you can put in #replay, as well as any questions that you have for me. There's a question here. I was told by a friend parasites can affect emotions as well. So yesterday, I believe I talked a little bit about the gut microbiome and how there's an imbalance in the gut microbiome, right? So if you have good commensal bacteria, they regulate the production of neurotransmitters such as dopamine and serotonin that makes us feel good, makes us have happy emotions. But if those good commensal bacteria no longer exist because of all the things that we have in the environment that destroys our gut microbiome, it makes space for pathogens such as parasites, yeast, fungi to grow in our colon, which can shift the production of these neurotransmitters, right? And so that can affect mood. So it's not necessarily that the parasite is causing us disruption or causing us bad moods or making us sick. It's just that it's not allowing for the growth of good bacteria that help us produce the happy hormones that make us feel better. So what we really want to work on is repairing the gut, restoring the good microbiome, removal of things that are killing off the gut microbiome, and also then if you do have any serious pathogens in your colon, to have them taken care of with a medical doctor. You're welcome, and I'm so glad that you've been here. Maria, you have a question. What is a great organic tea that works for bloating and relaxation? So there are a lot of good teas out there that help with gastrointestinal symptoms. Chamomile tea is great. Peppermint's good for that. Fennel's good for that. Dill's good for that. And you can, of course, just make your own dill tea or make your own dill tea is kind of like gripe water, what we give babies, right? So you could take dill, steep it in some hot water, and then you can strain it and drink it. I love to do that with fennel. Fennel's a great analgesic for the stomach, especially if you have acidity. So you can take a handful or take a teaspoon of fennel seeds, steep them in hot water, strain that, drink that. You could do that with peppermint if you have bloating and gas for IBS symptoms. So you can take peppermint leaves, steep them in hot water, strain that, drink it. But let's say you're not really savvy with real herbs and you really want to just get something on the market. My favorite organic brand is Organic India. And you can get that at Sprouts, you can get that on Amazon. In Organic India, I'm not affiliated with it by any means. I don't have any affiliations at all, but it's a good brand. So you can look at Organic India as a way of getting those kinds of teas. If you don't have your own chamomile flowers, or you don't have your own dill or peppermint or fennel, those are my favorites for the stomach. So I hope that helps. Oh yeah, you're welcome. Thank you so much for joining me. Well, if you guys have any other questions, I'm going to sign off, but feel free to add them in the comments. I'll do my best to answer them as they come through. And if you're watching this on the replay, thank you so much for joining me as well. You guys have a wonderful day. Take care of yourselves in 2021.